Hi, everybody. Welcome. Thanks for coming. My name is Adam Zundel, Associate Commissioner at the Mountain East Conference. Thanks to our friends here at Frostburg this morning for helping us get set up and having us here today for this exciting and historic announcement. Just some information about how things will run today. In just a moment, the Commissioner from the Mountain East will come up with some remarks, followed by representatives from Frostburg State. And then Commissioner Amos will be back up again with some closing remarks. At the end of all that, there will be time for questions from the media at the end. When you have a question, please announce who your question is for and what media outlet you're representing. After the formal portion concludes at the podium, there will be time for one-on-one interviews with all of our representatives here today. So with that, it's my pleasure to bring up the only commissioner in Mountain East Conference history, beginning his 6th season. Please welcome Commissioner Reid Amos.
Welcome to all of you. It is a very exciting day today. As Commissioner of the Mountain East Conference, I'm very pleased to be here with you to formally announce that Frostburg State University has accepted an offer of membership from the Mountain East Conference. As is customary with a reclassifying NCAA institution, the Mountain East's offer of membership is contingent upon acceptance into the NCAA Division II membership process, which will unfold over the coming months. The Mountain East is very confident that Frostburg State is very well positioned to be able to successfully navigate the rigors of the NCAA Division II membership process. In many ways, we believe that Frostburg State possesses all that is necessary to become a model NCAA Division II institution. As I stated last week, upon visiting this campus and meeting the leadership here at Frostburg State's coaches, student athletes representing the majority of FSU athletic programs, it became clear that Frostburg State not only fits within our geographic footprint, but also aligns well with the values, the goals, and the mission of the Mountain East Conference and the fellow members in the league. With successful admission into the NCAA Division II membership process, we expect Frostburg State to be a highly competitive and highly valued member of the Mountain East Conference. While I have a bit more, I'll have a little bit more later in today's conference. At this time, it's my pleasure to say to Frostburg State President Dr. Ronald Nowaczyk, Athletic Director Troy Dell, Frostburg State faculty, staff, and coaches, and most importantly, to Frostburg State student athletes, that the Mountain East Conference is excited about the prospect of this association with Frostburg State University, and we look forward to what the future may hold. To provide a few words and to introduce President Nowaczyk as well, it's my pleasure to introduce Frostburg State Director of Athletics, Troy Dell.
Thank you, Reid. Excuse me. First and foremost, I'd like to thank everyone for attending this morning's events. Your presence means a great deal to our athletic department, its programs, and this great university. I'd like to take a second to thank Reid, Amos, Allie, and Adam for being here and assisting our folks in putting on this conference. Also want to thank the Board of Directors from the Mountain East Conference. The confidence that those presidents have shown in our institution and our leadership in inviting us into their conference is is quite an honor. Want to thank Dr. Nowaczyk for his engagement, knowledge, and leadership throughout this process. It's been extraordinary to work with him and have his ear and have him interact with our folks in the athletic department. Want to thank my athletic direct reports, Leon Wyden, who came on board recently and jumped right in, rolled his sleeves up, and got to work. Want to thank Denise Murphy, who served as the interim vice president during this period. Denise did a fantastic job of getting herself up to speed and being engaged. The rest of the executive group, Liz Troop, Dr. Liz Troop, our provost, John Short from the advancement office. Want to thank those folks for their engagement and involvement. Want to thank the athletic department staff, my assistant ADs have been instrumental in freeing my time up to work on this and picking up the pieces and making sure the athletic department runs on a daily basis. My coaches for their open-mindedness and willingness to participate in the feasibility study, the membership process. Want to thank Dr. Ralph Brewer, our faculty athletic rep, And finally, I want to thank the broader campus community and our student athletes for standing behind us in this process, sharing their thoughts, speaking freely, and helping us make an educated and informed decision about what's best for us moving forward. Next, I'd like to turn my attention to kind of just giving you a little bit of an overview of how we got to this point and why this is an important move for us. We joined the CAC in 2011 to put our students in a place where they could play against like institutions, play in a higher level of competition, play in a geographic footprint that was small and in some of their home locations. Over the years, the footprint has changed dramatically, which has forced us to look at other alternatives, to be more open-minded. You know, departure of 2 schools in 2012, 2 more this summer, a third just announced that they're leaving. So over the time period, the geographic footprint has changed dramatically and changed who we're competing against. We decided last summer when Wesley College and Marymount University announced that they were leaving to do a feasibility study on Division II, to go through the process, see what our institution, how our institution aligned with Division II. In doing that process, we were committed to you know, exploring that, seeing what it had to offer, and doing it in a timely manner. Shortly before the NCAA convention, Dr. Nowaczyk and I decided to reach out to Commissioner Amos and just kind of do a meet and greet. Just introduce ourselves, say hello, because we thought the Mountain East might be a place that someday down the road might be a good fit for us. Turns out we got to that meeting and the Mountain East was potentially going to have some membership change, or he thought that maybe he was hearing some grumblings that there were some folks who were looking around. At that point, we increased our conversations, they intensified. We decided to continue the feasibility study and explore the Mountain East, you know, at the same time, which led us to a pretty hectic spring of going through the membership process with the Mountain East and the feasibility study. There are a lot of pieces and moving pieces to these decisions, folks, and I want to thank everybody for the expeditious manner in which this was handled. You got to realize that as you do this, these decisions aren't made in a vacuum. They're made with a lot of thought and a lot of time and a lot of energy, and all of this timeline feeds into that. Just to give you a couple things about what lies ahead. As Commissioner Amos alluded to, the NCAA Division II process is very rigorous. We will begin that process immediately. We will work with Strategic Edge Athletic Consulting. They will assist us with the membership process. We are also in the process of finding affiliate memberships for 2 of our sports which are not sponsored in the Mountain East, which are field hockey and men's lacrosse. We are committed to those programs, and we will find good homes along with the assistance of the Mountain East for those programs. And just want to clarify, too, with that, it's not uncommon for some of your sports to play as affiliate members in other conferences. We've played as an affiliate member in football for a long, long time around here. So you can have really strong relationships and great student experiences if you get your folks in the right places. Finally, I want to, just let everyone know that there's a ton of work to be done on this campus. There will be numerous committees forming. We will be reaching out to faculty and staff and students to work on those committees and be part of this process. As always, I'm sure I can count on the folks on this campus to step up and help us move through the process and put forth our best application to NCAA Division II, as well as make the Mountain East proud in the near future. With that, I would like to welcome Dr. Ronald Nowaczyk to the podium for a few remarks.
Thank you, Troy, and Reid, and the Mountain East staff that are here. Thank you for setting this up for us today. My comments are going to focus on two things. One is the word fit, and the other is the student-athlete experience. Fit is a word you oftentimes use, and I know as presidents we look at fit in the sense of it's one of those terms that it's sometimes difficult to define, but everybody knows what we're talking about. And when we began to explore the opportunity with Mountain East, my big question, and question I asked to the leadership of the faculty as well as the staff is this a good fit for us? And I will tell you that while in some quarters people will focus almost exclusively on academics, which again is what we're here for, many times alumni do pay attention to athletics. And whatever you do, the conference you're in helps define the institution, and it plays an important role. So from my perspective, when we were looking at Mountain East, one of the things I wanted to really see is this a good fit for us, both in terms of the competition on the field, but as importantly, the academics of the institutions that we would be associated with. And I'm pleased to say that I think this is a great fit for us. And I'm basing that on several things. One, early on, after our conversation with Reid and Troy at the NCAA convention, Reid and his staff and a couple of the ADs from other schools came and visited Frostburg State University to do a site visit. It was a collegial visit. It was a very forthcoming visit, great dialogue. It was clear that Mountain East viewed us, or looking at us as a partner, and that partnership is important in moving forward in any endeavor. Following that, Troy and I were invited by Commissioner Amos to visit several of the Mountain East schools, and so we spent a day visiting with 3 institutions, meeting with the presidents, taking tours of their facilities, learning about their experiences in the Mountain East, and it again became very clear to me that this was the right move for us. We've done our homework internally. Again, in case you don't realize this, there's only one other Division II school in the state of Maryland. There are only 5 states in the United States that have only one Division II school, and Maryland is one of them. And the other Division II school is Bowie State. So we would be the second Division II school in the state of Maryland. And we did some homework and found that almost 700 Maryland students are competing as Division II athletes, either in the Mountain East or in the Pennsylvania, in the state of Pennsylvania and surrounding states. So we see this as an opportunity. Reid, I hope you don't mind us if we steal some of the Mountain East students and keep them in state, but we see this as an opportunity for us too, to help some students from Maryland who would like to compete at D2 and stay in the state of Maryland. So we see this as an opportunity for us. And that leads me to the second point, which is the student-athlete experience. It really is about the student-athletes, and I do know that one of the things, and Troy alluded to a bit to this, is the changing footprint of our current conference. The travel and the time away from class for our students will be less in the Mountain East than it is currently and would likely be in our current conference. And so I see that as being a certain plus for our student-athletes. As importantly, and perhaps as from their perspective as an athlete, though, one of the things that I'm very impressed with the Mountain East is the experiences they give their student-athletes, whether it's through championships and the ability for students to compete in a championship environment and have that experience that they currently do not get, as well as media exposure. And the opportunity in Division II, and certainly with the Mountain East, and their resources and their ability to expand the opportunities for our students to be seen in various media outlets that they currently don't have, will give them a experience that goes beyond what we currently have. And so I think for our student athletes, this is an opportunity for them to ratchet up, to go to a different level in terms of the experiences that they might have. And again, I think the support that we've experienced from the university, from the faculty, and from the staff, and the coaches, and I appreciate the help of the coaches. They're asking good questions as we go through this process, and one of the things we've been committed to from the day one is to be as transparent and open as we possibly can with the process as we go forward, is to ask those questions and to get the answers so people understand where we are and how we're trying to address it. Because again, foremost, the most important thing is that student-athlete experience and making sure our students have the best experience they possibly can in a competitive athletic environment. So with that, I want to thank Mountain East for considering us, making the offer. We're looking forward to becoming a member of the Mountain East as we follow through the process. With this, I'll turn it back over to Commissioner Amos.
Well, thank you very much, Dr. Nowaczyk. And again, the Mountain East Conference is absolutely thrilled with this prospect of this new association with Frostburg State. And I thought I would take a couple of moments before we have a question and answer session for the media to provide a bit of perspective about the Mountain East Conference as well as transition to NCAA Division II. NCAA Division II embraces a model referred to as life in the balance. It supports the educational mission of college athletics by fostering a balanced and inclusive approach in which student athletes team and develop through their desired academic pursuits in civic engagement with their communities and in athletics competition. And in tying that to the conversation a moment ago from Dr. Nowaczyk with regard to fit, I believe that this is an extraordinary fit. When you take a look at an average NCAA Division II institution and you take a look at an average NCAA Division III institution, from our perspective in the Mountain East Conference, Frostburg State very much looks like an NCAA Division II institution. And then you take that next step and talk about values. Our conference membership has significant shared values, despite the fact that we're roughly a 50-50 split of public and private institutions. We've based our competitiveness as a conference on similar enrollments, similar goals, similar budgets, similar capacities to compete under a mantra of providing opportunity and pursuing excellence. I can't help but notice the seal that is just in front of me on the front of this podium that speaks of scholarship. As Frostburg State makes a transition to NCAA Division II, where scholarship will be extended not only to those that are outstanding in the classroom or might be a theater student or might be a music student. It will also be extended to a student athlete who will continue a career as a student athlete and will have opportunity provided for them to make a college education more affordable and have a tremendous opportunity to compete at a very high level of NCAA Division II athletics. And to share a bit about that despite being among the lower quadrant of institutions with regard to athletic budgets in NCAA Division II among 24 conferences, we've been highly competitive among one another and at the national level. We are very fortunate to have had 2 national championships in sports that the Mountain East Conference sponsors in men's soccer and women's volleyball, 7 national finals appearances, and 13 national semifinalists. But we're just as proud of the 7 NCAA Division II Elite 90 winners that we have had, awarded to the student athlete who reaches the final site in their respective sport and has the highest grade point average among the participants at a final site. We embrace life in the balance in the Mountain East Conference and do in NCAA Division II and provide that opportunity and pursue excellence not only in athletics but in academics as well. We're going to take some time here and open up to some questions from the media. I believe Dr. Nowaczyk and Troy Dell are going to join me. We'll be happy to take some questions from the media.
WCBC. Each of you, could you talk to what you think is going to be the biggest challenge for Frostburg State in making the transition into the conference and also into Division II?
Should I take that one first?
Gosh, I just think the pace at which we're going to have to move through processes and build committees and build some structures that aren't required at the Division III level that we're going to need at the Division II level. I talked a little bit about in my remarks about needing the campus to support us and engage with us. We're going to have to rely really heavily on the groups outside of athletics to really help us move through this process efficiently and to do a high level of work that we need to successfully execute on it.
Yeah, I would say from my perspective, echoing what Troy has said, it's one of the things we're going to be needing to do some additional reorganization in the athletic department to make sure that we comply with a number of the expectations of Division II. I think also the other side of it will be educating the alumni and faculty and staff in the community to what Division II is and the new rivalries I think that will be coming up in terms of competition. I think there's great opportunities there. I also think for the student athletes, I see a difference between D2 and D3 and D2 that I always think of the experience not only on the court or on the field, the track or the stadium, whatever it is, but also what happens off campus, off the field. And for our students, I've been very proud of our students involved in the community. But given, as I mentioned, the media exposure and things, they're going to experience opportunities to have interviews with the media, with you folks, and to have that opportunity. And that's a learning experience, and that is then a skill that helps them later in life. So there'll be some skill development that will come as a result of this that we'll be calling upon the coaches to help us with, as well as the faculty and staff, to moving students forward.
And I'll simply state that the Mountain East Conference believes that Frostburg State is extremely well positioned in making that transition to be competitive from NCAA Division III to Division II. The success of the football program in the NCAA Division III playoffs would be a prime example that would demonstrate to our membership that Frostburg State is very well positioned to have highly competitive programs. You can look through the history and see many competitive programs that Frostburg State has had over a long period of time. And when you look at the geographics, I believe it was noted earlier, the 700 Division II student athletes that reside in Maryland and maybe have been going to Pennsylvania or West Virginia or to other locales. I think that there's a strong recruiting base that exists for Frostburg State as they go forward.
Mike Gilbert, WVOY. You just mentioned West Virginia. What does it mean for high school athletes, this opportunity for those in West Virginia looking to continue their athletic and academic careers?
Well, I think when you look at the geography of our conference becoming even more compressed, our projection of the geographic footprint of the Mountain East is that the average trip for the entire conference will be just over 160 miles. And you look at a conference that will have a longest trip of 309 miles, the more compressed the geographic footprint is, the more opportunity for anybody within that geographic footprint, whether West Virginians or not, are going to have tremendous opportunities for potential partial scholarship. The Division II model is a partial scholarship model, as opposed to Division I, which is more known as a full scholarship model. So the idea is those are opportunities that offset the overall cost of education. There will be plenty of opportunities for student athletes throughout the region, not just ones from West Virginia.
I can add, as president, I can't help it because we're always trying to recruit students. I have my enrollment management person in the back row here. Just to let you know, too, that from our perspective, we have a lot of West Virginia students who do come. Again, we're so close to it. And the other thing we do offer students from West Virginia is a regional tuition rate, which is lower than the out-of-state rate. So we are very welcoming for students coming from West Virginia and the surrounding states to come to Frostburg. So we would be very interested in continuing those kinds of dialogues in terms of the programs we offer, may complement some that do not exist at some of the other member schools, and give the opportunity for students to stay close to home. So we see this as a great opportunity.
And from a conference perspective, we embrace competition.
Kyle, a couple of times, Ms. What was the feasibility study process like? Like, what were some things that Frostburg was looking at for?
Troy, do you want to?
Sure. I think you know, the life and the balance piece, the student experience piece, figuring out you know, whether we could meet those demands. I think they looked at our facilities, our staffing, all of our resources, how we've structured our department to this point. You know, everything, student athlete manuals, code of conduct. Pretty deep dive into how the department is currently structured and what guidelines and structures we have in place. So I think the assessment comes back and it looks at what are the bones that you have and how can those bones be built out. And I think at the end of the day, what they came back with is that we had good bones to build this thing and going forward. And then you know, as I keep looping back to, I feel really confident in the people we have on this campus to execute on that piece and build that out. But really the study comes in and looks at those pieces to make sure that you have the structures in place and that you're not going to embark on a process that you're not already, you know, prepared to take on. I don't know if there's anything.
I would just add, you know, in the feasibility study, we're working with an external firm, and I think it's a wise thing to do because, quite frankly, the NCAA doesn't want to have institutions fail. at whatever level they're at. And so it's not just a competition on the field, but it's also the organization, and as Commissioner Amos mentioned, meeting the expectations at Division II. The rules and the expectations at each of the divisions vary depending on the level of competition, the expectations. So it was important for us to have that external look, for someone to look at it and say, okay, here are the areas where we think you need to strengthen some of the things. And some of it is in the area of having student handbooks, manuals, things that are updated, that are consistent with the expectations about the conference in Division II. And having those fresh eyes helps us make sure we don't miss something along the way that could make it difficult for us to move to the Division II in the Mountain East.
If you don't mind, I'll share a couple of perspectives there from a conference-wide standpoint. There's a point that you move past assessing the feasibility of, is this a move that can be made? And then you move into, is this a move that is beneficial in an overarching way to the institutions? And in doing so, Dr. Nowaczyk highlighted some of the things that we believe we bring to the table as a conference, not only as an NCAA Division II conference and the opportunity associated with that, but also in positioning the institution for the future. When you talk about the media presence that we have been very fortunate to generate in the Mountain East Conference through a relationship with West Virginia Radio, which is the same corporation that owns the Allegheny Radio Corporation, we believe that there's going to be tremendous opportunity to increase presence for Frostburg State individually and for our entire conference mutually. We have multiple broadcasts each year on AT&T Sportsnet Pittsburgh, which reaches availability in 2.5 million homes through the region. So we often talk about athletics being the front porch of institutions. It's a great way to maintain relations with alumni, relations with the community, and gives you an overall picture of the institution as a whole. We look to take advantage of that, not only through providing great experiences for our student athletes in championships, but also promoting the institutions and their student athletes through our media platforms.
Another question I had. You guys talk about community and stuff like that. Do you think this move impacts athletes at, say, like Mountain Ridge High School, Allegheny High School, Fort Hill, Northern, Southern, local high schools? How do you think this move kind of impacts that as far as recruiting those students for athletics?
I think it's going to help us. We haven't done a deep dive, but I would assume there are some students from some of those institutions, those high schools, that are going to D1 and D2 schools, and they may give us a look. And I think that's going to be important for us, again, as we serve the region. And I think the higher level of competitiveness that we will see here may make us attractive to those individuals in coming to Frostburg State University. I think it'll be incumbent on the coaches, and again, we've had, I can't emphasize enough, support of the coaches. The coaches have been approaching this with eyes open, asking the right questions. And again, we'll be in a situation in the future, too, to have the ability now perhaps to do some different kinds of packaging, if we call it, of scholarship money, much as Commissioner Amos was mentioning, for some of these students who might find that going to a D3 school that can't offer an athletic scholarship to be too prohibitive, and picking other schools out of state. Now they'll have the opportunity to come here and stay here.
Commissioner, maybe you could address this. We're talking about athletic competition as far as a league goes.
Mm-hmm.
What about a conference's collaboration between schools? Can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, I believe that among our institutions, that collaboration has been strong. What has helped create that is the fact that a group of institutions came together and we pushed this conference up out of the dirt and helped create a conference working collectively that helped our institutions, after 20 years of NCAA Division II membership and at the national level, a minimal amount of success, has turned from one national championship appearance into, that was in 19 years, to in 6 years, 2 national titles, 7 national championship appearances, the 13 semifinalists that I'd mentioned earlier, and the collaborative nature of the institutions creating a highly competitive platform and embracing the importance of the student-athlete experience, giving them tremendous championship experiences. You have to think that for a lot of student-athletes, reaching an NCAA event is not what the majority of student-athletes have the opportunity to do. The minority of student-athletes ultimately reach an NCAA event. We embrace creating a quality event for the student athletes to have that NCAA experience if they don't get to NCAA championships. That has required a high collaborative level among our presidents. Our board of directors is made up of our Mountain East Conference presidents who ultimately have the decision-making authority on all that we do as a conference, and they have worked together to embrace a very collegial environment, and that has opened the doors for a lot of collaboration among our institutions.
One more for the commissioner then. Where do you see the conference in 5 years, 10 years down the road?
Well, with the very high level of success that we've had over this 5-year period, we have great expectations that a high level of success is going to continue and that Frostburg State is going to fold right in to that very high level of success. We think the future is very bright for the Mountain East Conference. So we see us not only continuing, but our expectation is that we'll continue to thrive.
Troy, for you, do we see more student athletes at Frostburg State in the future as a result of this, the same amount, fewer? How will that all wash out?
I don't think the roster sizes will change that much. They may grow a little bit, and I think football is a good example. Our current conference, the New Jersey Athletic Conference, caps the number of football players you can bring in at 125. We'll probably exceed that when we move to NCAA Division II, so you'll see a little bit of an uptick there. You may see us carry one or two more on some of our other rosters, but I don't think that it's going to change. Our coaches have done a nice job over the years of keeping our rosters full and doing a good job of bringing in the right student athletes. So I don't see a big change in the number of student athletes that we currently have on campus.
Maybe a question again for the commissioner. How do Frostburg State's facilities match up with the other teams or other schools in the conference?
Overall, extremely well. The outdoor facilities are outstanding and are among the finest in the Mountain East. Renovations are currently going on with the tennis complex. That will be an outstanding facility. The softball and baseball complexes are on par with the majority of our Mountain East Conference facilities, and the indoor facility, the basketball arena, reminds me of the other FSU in the Mountain East Conference, Fairmont State. They're very similar facilities, though Fairmont State's the entirety of the building is much smaller. The arena itself has a lot of similarities, and they, matter of fact, had a similar floor surface when it was opened as well. So very much, very similar, very much on par, if not exceeding the par.
How do you determine who hosts championships in your conference?
We have a combination of neutral site events where neutral site events make sense. Our higher profile events, such as our men's and women's basketball tournament, is at West Banco Arena in Wheeling beginning this year, and we expect it to be a great atmosphere at a neutral site. But in events where neutral sites don't draw as much fan support as we would like, we prefer having higher seeds host on campuses, and then we bring that championship experience to that campus, because ultimately for student athletes, it's a much better experience for them to play in front of a supporting crowd. So we make those choices based on whether or not neutral site is workable. When it's not, we look at campus sites to host, and we usually make those selections based on seating. And in events where it's not based on seating, institutions will go through a bid process just like a neutral site would, and we go through a selection process. So, for instance, Frostburg State could potentially be a neutral site host for our track and field championship at some point in the future, as one example. So that's essentially how we go through our process.
All right, we'll go ahead and conclude this portion of it. If you have further questions, all of our representatives will be available. Thanks again, everybody, and look forward to Mountain East joining Frostburg State, or Frostburg State joining Mountain East. Thank you.